Fitness, and today I'm going to look at how to squat. I'm going to keep this as simple as I possibly can, and I'm going to go through the basics of how to squat correctly. There are a number of variations in terms of squatting, but I'm going to show you a very basic and a very simple method of how to squat properly. So when I'm going to start to squat, I'm going to make sure the feet are about hip distance apart. Now you're going to get arguments in terms of how wide or how close the feet should be, and I'm going to leave that for a different day. But for today, I'm going to make sure that the feet are about hip distance apart. The other thing is I'm going to have the feet facing forward. Again, you're going to have variations that the feet are facing out, but for this video, I'm going to have it that the feet are facing forward. So, feet about hip distance apart. When I'm going to squat, the first movement I'm going to do is I'm going to push the hips backward. It's really important that the first movement comes from here and not from your knees. If I go from the knees, I'm going to go forward. If I go from the hips, I'm going to go backwards. And it's really important that I'm pushing back through the hips. That's going to keep the weight down in my heels. And then the simple thing to remember is, as I squat, I should always feel the weight in my heels. I don't generally want to feel the weight in my toes. So as I squat, pushing back through the hips, and I don't want the knees to come over the toes. So I'm going to drop down, and I'm going to get to about parallel with the floor, and then I'm going to come all the way back up to the top. Now again, how far you drop down will be debated also. But again, for this video, we're looking at getting the hamstring about parallel with the floor. So again, the basics: feet hip distance apart. I'm pushing back through the hips. I don't want those knees coming over the toes, and I'm going to drop down until I get to parallel, and I'm going to come back to the top. Now it's really important that I keep the head up all the time. I don't want to look down, because that's going to affect the position my back is in. And remember, I'm always going to make sure I keep the core very tight, pushing back through the hips, weight down in the heels, head up, and then I'm going to come all the way back to the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple of issues, if certain things are happening, why they happen, and what you need to do about them. One of the most common things is that when people start to squat, as they go down, their knees go forward, and their knees come over the toes. So if I stand this way, you'll see the way my knees are going over my toes. Now that's going to load my knees. Instead of loading the quads, hamstrings and glutes, I'm just pretty much going to load the knees. So sometimes that'll happen because the calves are very tight, or that the ankle itself, there's not good mobility in your ankle. So you need to make sure that you've good mobility in the ankle and that you've good flexibility in your calves. And then the second most common area is people have issues with their hips. One is that the hips are not strong enough, and two, they don't have the mobility in their hips to allow them to get down into that deeper position. So it's really important that you're working on the flexibility and the mobility in your hips, and that along with squats you may need to do some lateral work. So you might need to do ab and adductors or internal and external rotators. So that's a couple of simple tips in terms of squatting, and I hope you found this video helpful.